Hello, my name is HAPruitt and I am the author of Anelthalien. This video is going to be about self-publishing and the book cover when self-publishing. So first, I want to say that I'm not an expert on self-publishing. Anelthalien was published with Elm Hill, which is a hybrid of self-publishing and traditional publishing, so I know a little bit about both of those. But book covers. So book covers are important because they're the first thing that your potential reader is going to see, and they may be, and they usually are, the thing that tells your reader if they want to read your book or not. So your book cover is important because it has to tell your reader everything about your book in one image. So I'll talk about how to convey that in my next video, but in this video I'm going to talk about how to just prepare to get ready to make your book cover, because it is so important. The preparation of how you make your book cover is really, really important. So when looking through self-publishing companies, look at what they offer, their services to create the book cover, and then the guidelines of the book cover. You want to know what you're going to be able to do, and then what the restrictions are, and what you have to do. Like, are you going to be able to create the whole book cover, the front, side, and back? Or are you going to be just able to create the front? Do you have to use their photo stock, or can you submit your own images? You want to look at everything you can of the publishing company you're thinking about going with, so you know what you're able to do. And if the restrictions are something you don't like, you might need to go to a different company, because your book cover is that important. So once you look through everything on the self-publishing company's website, and you know your possibilities, your restrictions, and your requirements, then you need to think about, how am I going to make my book cover? And so you have a couple options. Your first option is, if you're an artist like me, you make your own book cover. I drew my own book cover and that was easy. So if you're an artist, congratulations, it's easy. If you're not an artist, you're going to have to find someone to help you. And so start with your friends and family. Think about anyone in your family or anyone in any of your social groups, and think, do I know anyone who's even a creative person? You don't want to just think, well, I don't know anyone who draws really good, so I don't have anybody that I can go to help me create my book cover. Don't stop there. Think, do you know any kind of artist, a photographer, a graphic designer, someone who does like computer artistic stuff? Do you know someone who is good at like even looking at colors and thinking what goes well together? Anyone who's creative and does like crafty things with their kids, you know, or somebody, just anybody who's good at anything creative, even somebody who's good at coming up with ideas, who's really original, will be very helpful. Go to those people in your life first. Ask them to kind of brainstorm with you and think of different book covers that could possibly be good for your book. Start there, because that'll be cheap or free, and that's really good when self-publishing. You want to do it as little cost as possible, because the other option is you're going to have to hire an illustrator or a graphic designer, and that may not be cheap at all. And so to hire an illustrator or a graphic designer, you're going to have to find them first. And so to find them, there's just, you know, type it into a search engine, and it's going to be just a million things that come up if you type Illustrator. So even if you don't know what you want on your book cover, think of the style that you want your book cover to look like. Do you want it to be a children's book? Do you want the style to be more realistic? Do you want it to kind of look like a photo? Do you want it to be a photo? Do you want it to be bold and graphic? Or do you want it to kind of be soft and romantic? Think about the style. Because if you can narrow it down to a style, that's a lot easier to find an artist than it is if you just try to find an artist at all. So one way to find an illustrator or a graphic designer is to simply go to a search engine and type in, let's do children's book illustrator, or cartoony illustrator, and look at the pictures and look at the people and be safe. Don't just pick someone and say, hey, I want you to do my book cover, and go with them. Research the person that you're looking at. Look through the things they've created. Make sure it's a real person, and be safe if you go that route. Another route that is a little bit more secure is to look through your social media. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, any of those, look for people who are following you or you're following them who are illustrators, or just make a post and hashtag it Illustrator. And if someone follows it because they are an illustrator, then they'll see it. So that's the second way to look for an illustrator you don't know, is to look on social media and to find someone through that. I'm working with someone right now to illustrate their book cover, and that's how they found me, I found them. They made a post on Instagram, they said, I need an illustrator, and I went to them, direct message, and said, hey, I'm kind of interested, what are you thinking? So that's a really good way to find somebody who's kind of close to you, but you still have to pay them maybe not as much as you would a professional, because I'm not a professional, I just really like to draw. And then, the third way to find an illustrator is to get a book that you kind of like the cover of, and either, if it's a children's book, it'll probably say illustrated by so-and-so, but if you go to the copyright page of a book, it's going to say something to the effect of cover and interior illustrations are created by and copyright of HAPruitt, used by permission. So that's going to tell you who created this. HAPruitt created this, and then you can go look them up. And also, where is... Well, I don't know, but usually it will have the designer also, whoever, the creative designer who made the cover. Like, I drew all this, and then I told the creative designer at Elm Hill, I want it on this color background, I want this kind of font. I told them this is how I want the back, and they put it all together. So the illustrator is going to be the person who drew the stuff. The designer is going to be the one who put it all together and made it look pretty. So even if you need just a designer, because you can draw but you can't do the computer stuff, that was the boat I was in, then that's a good way to find a designer, to look in a book that you like and to find the designer. And sometimes they'll have their website or email address. And I really thought mine had it, but I'm trying to do a video so I can't find it. But look in the covers of books to find illustrators, because they will be legitimate, real people that you can trust, because it's actually in a book and not just someone you found on the internet. So once you find an illustrator that either in your family or not in your family, it's really important to communicate well with whoever you find to do your book cover. Because if you're not an artist, it's likely that you have kind of an idea of what you want on your book, but you can't express it besides just in words. And so you have to use your words very carefully to communicate what you are thinking to what you want. Use excerpts from your book. Like when I drew my cover, I looked back in the part where it describes this necklace, and I made sure it included what the necklace needed to look like. Do that with yours. If you want a portrait of your main character, send this artist excerpts of the main character describing what they look like. Don't just say, you know, well, they're a person and they're a boy and they're a teenager, because like 13 to 18, that could be anybody, you know? So make sure you are very, very specific in how you describe what you want on your book cover. Just think, everyone takes things differently. You could say, I want a really nice, serene feeling scene and lots of trees. And so you could say that and mean one thing. You could mean kind of an evergreen forest with a little river going through, because that's what popped in my mind when I described it. But if you describe it to someone else, they might see, you know, oh, a beach scene that's really serene with lots of palm trees. And you get that and you're like, oh, that's not what I meant at all. Oh, so describe very specifically what you want. If you can find pictures, again, the example of a portrait of someone, if you can find one picture and say, I like this one's eyes, and find another picture and say, but I like this one's mouth, and find another one and say, but I like this one's face shape. Be very descriptive, because if you're not, creative people, artistic minds fill in the gaps themselves, and they may give you something you didn't intentionally ask for, but they filled in the gaps and they gave you something. So be very descriptive, communicate a lot, ask them to show you the picture throughout their drawing or creating process so you can give feedback on and off. Elm Hill, I bought the package where I was able to communicate 4 times with a creative director. An initial time, and then they sent me back what they came up with first, and I got to say what I wanted them to change, but I only had 3 times to do it. And that made it really difficult, and I was really nervous about it. And so if you have the opportunity to do it with someone who will communicate with you as much as possible, do communicate as much as possible, because it will end up better in the end, you getting what you want. And you are the boss. You're the author, you're the boss. And so, like me with working with the author I'm working with now, the author keeps saying, you know, I'm so glad you're being so flexible, but I'm like, you know, it's your book cover and it's what you want, and I'm just here to make you happy. And so don't feel like you're being bossy and saying, I want this and this and this. They want to please you. They want to do their job, and their job is to make sure you get what you want. So don't be afraid to be kind of bossy, but in a kind way, of course. So that is my video about how to get started with your book cover. It's important because this is what is going to tell people, do I want to read this book or not? Then to start your book cover, research the website, the self-publishing company's website, see what you can do and what you can't do and what you're required to do. And then when thinking about how am I going to make this, if you're an artist, do it yourself. If you're not an artist, look at family and friends first. And if you can't find anyone there, go looking for an illustrator through different venues online or in the copyright page of the book. So thank you for watching. The next video, I'm going to talk about how to create an effective book cover that will tell your readers everything they need to know about your book in one moment. Because I do really like art, and I'm good at artsy stuff, so that'll be great. See you next time. Bye. Hi, if you want to know more about Anelthalien, please follow me on Instagram, check out my Facebook page, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, or visit my website at HAPruitt.com. Thanks for watching!